I'm Sister Regina Bechtle, and I'd like to share with you the story of the separation of the Sisters of Charity of New York. New York City in the mid-1800s was a place of noise and need. The streets overflowed with hungry immigrants and orphaned children. Poverty was everywhere, and the church was stretched thin. Among the most visible and tireless responders were the Sisters of Charity, women religious who ran orphanages, taught in schools, and cared for the sick and the abandoned. They had come to New York almost 30 years earlier, sent by Elizabeth Ann Seton in 1817 from the motherhouse in Emmitsburg, Maryland. By 1846, nearly 1/5 of all the Sisters of Charity in the United States were serving in New York. But their mission and their unity was about to be tested in a way none of them could have imagined. The trouble began quietly in the fall of 1845. A new Sulpician priest gave a mandate from the leadership in Emmitsburg. Mother Etienne Hall and Father Louis Regis Delawal declared that sisters would no longer care for boys in orphanages and schools. The rule, grounded in the community's original mission to serve girls, caused a stir in many dioceses. But in New York, it ignited a fire. Bishop John Hughes of New York, a fierce protector of his growing and embattled diocese, pushed back. More than 100 orphan boys were under the sisters' care. Where would they go? He had no brothers yet to replace the sisters, no alternative institutions ready. To him, pulling the sisters out was not just impractical, it was unthinkable. Tensions rose. Letters flew between New York and Emmitsburg. Many heated, some pleading, all anxious. The bishop saw the sisters' removal as a threat to the survival of Catholic social services in his city. Emmitsburg superiors saw the bishop's resistance as a challenge to their authority. In June 1846, Hughes made a bold proposal. Let the sisters choose. Those who wished to return to Emmitsburg could do so. Those who wished to stay in New York would form a new independent diocesan congregation under his authority. It was, in effect, a call to division. And then came the impossible question: what would each sister do? Sister Rosalia Green, sent from Emmitsburg to assess the situation, gathered the sisters. She explained the bishop's proposal and the motherhouse's refusal. Some were ready to return. Others stood frozen by uncertainty. Probably many wept. In the meantime, Sister Williamana Hickey, seasoned superior of St. Joseph's School in New York, wrote to the mother in Emmitsburg, "My dear mother, your heart would break to see the present institutions broken up. Let the boys remain until the brothers come." They were expected in October of 1846. She begged for compassion, for the orphans, for the sisters, for the fragile public trust. But the decision from Emmitsburg stood firm. On December 4th, 1846, Father Delawal issued his final letter. Any sister who chose to stay in New York would need a dispensation from vows and would henceforth be considered, quote, as perfect strangers to us, united only in the communion of saints. Those who wished to remain in New York wrote letters to Father Delawal, asking to be dispensed from their vows. 4 days later, on December 8th, the sisters were called to make their choice. Alone, silently, one by one, they submitted their decision. In most missions, the community was split. Some returned to Emmitsburg, others stayed, rooted in their mission to the poor of New York. Sister Elizabeth Boyle, among the earliest members of the community and a close friend of Elizabeth Seton herself, stayed. In private letters, she later described that time as, quote, days of trouble and anxiety, a terrible trial. She wrote of the pain of being asked to desert hundreds of poor orphans. Sister Aloysia Lilly, her successor at St. Patrick's Asylum, chose to return to Maryland. She wrote with grief to her superiors, "What do you think my feelings must be this day to see the dear souls separating from us?" On December 12, 1846, the sisters who had chosen Emmitsburg boarded their carriages and left New York. Those who remained gathered just weeks later on December 31st and elected Mother Elizabeth Boyle to lead their newly independent community in New York, the Sisters of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul. The separation was painful. It was a wound carried silently by many. But at its heart, it was a decision made for the sake of the mission. The sisters who stayed in New York could not ignore the children on their doorsteps, the immigrants in the streets, the overwhelming cry of the poor. They responded not with defiance, but with charity, fidelity to the charism of charity, to the spirit of Elizabeth Seton, and to the gospel they had vowed to live. In the end, this is not only a story of division. It's a story of courage, a story of women who, when faced with an impossible choice, chose to stay with the people who needed them the most.